Okay. This lesson, fitting with reflections, started with Joyce, who is our main person, one of our main people. But what Joyce was saying is she was having a hard time doing things where you could see, so where you can both see down into the water and you can see the water.
Yeah.
And so I found this online and I took the tutorial. And remember last week, I think it was, I took a tutorial in watercolor, but it was done by a oil painter, and that he thought like an oil painter. And he did. And so anyway, I had to do it anyway. So I worked at it and I did this. And
very nice.
But I discovered in this that he has a couple of these circular ripples in his painting. And when I first did the sketch, I couldn't do them. They were all awful. So I finally got it, and we'll go through what I had to go through to get there. So this is my version of his thing. And
beautiful.
But before I could get to this, I had to do this and this and this and this. Okay, that one's too light.
Are you doing those for the color as much as the design?
Mostly for the design.
Okay.
I used the color because I had it, but I mean, like this one is green.
Well, I noticed they're sort of different each one.
No, it's just to learn. It's to learn what it is about circular ripples that when you first do them, and it's one of these things that you do what you think instead of what you see. It's the same issue. So then I took one piece of paper and I divided it into 4 sections, and I did this, which is my least favorite, and I did this, which is my second least favorite, and I did these two, which are both, I like much better.
Yes.
And these I did like a watercolorist. I didn't do them like an oil painter, because that's the other thing. It was sort of offensive to me to think like an oil painter when we are watercolorists. So my most recent one that I just finished last night is this one. Okay, I am now set to share screen. So this is sort of a natural reflection, right? And it's one of the hardest things, I think, to get right. Partially because we know that when we drop a penny or a rock in the pool, it does this because we're looking down at it. And so this is what we think. It's concentric circles, and they expand at a certain rate per minute, and they are concentric circles. So we think like this, but we don't want to draw like that. So when we do perspective, we know it sort of ought to look like this, which gives us some perspective. Now, beyond that, what was interesting to me once I did this in Photoshop was that the center of the circle, you can see my cursor, right? The center of the circle, the fattest part of this circle is below the center line.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was, I mean, I knew it had to be tipped back, and yet they weren't looking right. And it was because I was doing it, the proper tipping back, but I was still having this fattest part right at the midline. And so it was looking all wrong. The other thing is, of course, these are further apart, and these are closer together. And so that is, you know, what is this? Okay, so this is the ripple on top of my drawing, to be sure that what I'm talking about is sort of true. That here's the widest part, here's the center. There's a little tiny bit of blue here, which is also part of the circle. But what I want you to see here is that it's not just, they're not just drawn circles, exact circles. They're irregular. They're ovals, but I mean, the light does not hit them evenly. And what happens is the light in this one is coming from up here. And so it hits here completely, and then it gets a little bit darker. And now this part is in the shadow of the previous circle. So the light is only like on the top of the ripple. So one side of your ripple is going to be shadowed, and one part is, and the top part is going to be light. And so that makes the lines irregular, even though we know the circles are regular. The circles really do, when you drop down, look like that. So that's where the problem in drawing circular ripples comes in, that we think this, we know we have to tip it. We don't know that that the center line, I mean, you know we have to tip it, but we don't know that we want the center line below. We want the fattest part below this arc, so that this arc is flat and wide, and then it's not so close to this one. But the line of the fatness is sort of like this.
So let me ask, I'm just interested in this. If you were really very, very far away from this thing, this is like a perspective because you're close.
Yeah.
If you're far, far away, it wouldn't be quite that dramatic.
If you're far, far away, you would probably only see this. You would probably not this might be one line.
Oh.
Because they were so squished. But you would see, you would probably see more of these. And in fact, I think that that's what this guy that I was copying did. Okay, so here he's got a circle, and you see this is pretty flat, and then these ripples come out. But yeah, you don't see anything past the first one. And he's got another one out here, which is as you're saying, it's just, you probably can't see it on the TV, but it's really just a ridge or two. You don't see anything in the back because it's so tipped. So you're right, John. But we're going to do it right in the more or less in the middle. More or less. Okay? And the only way you learn these things is by doing them. I of course, don't need to practice.
Right. I understand.
Oh, that one's upside down. I don't practice at all.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Bye. Thank you, Ellen.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye, Ellen.
Bye-bye.
Bye.